How do you put in perspective what happened in Game 6?
Yeah, this was the continuation of the Knicks playing like a championship-level team. You know what the goal is this year, Eamon. You know how much talent they have on this team. It was up and down all regular season, but you look at these last 3 games, including the dominant Game 6, and the Knicks are playing to their capabilities, and they have as much depth as anybody in the NBA, and if they can kind of bottle this up and continue to play this way over the course of the playoffs, they're going to be a very, very tough out.
All right, I want to continue with that theme because after those back-to-back one-point losses, the Knicks won 3 straight by 16, 29, and 51. So, Ian, what adjustments did Mike Brown make to completely flip the script?
Yeah, well, first off, Mike Brown spent a lot of time crediting his whole staff for the adjustments in this series, and he said holistically after Game 3, they really figured out some things. They were able to tweak the offense. They were able to get into the offense faster, and he mentioned specifically getting their best players in spots where they can be effective. And what he was saying there was, Karl Anthony Towns really taking advantage of the mismatches presented to him, and the Knicks taking advantage of that. Karl Anthony Towns was a hub for this team in terms of passing the ball, whether it was top of the floor, a little bit out of the post, and it was just a clinic. And so it started with Towns, and then, the shot making from OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson being Jalen Brunson. I mean, this was a Knicks team playing to its potential at the right time of year.
All right, let's go back to Towns because he drew plenty of criticism when he went scoreless in the fourth quarter of the Game 2 loss. Double-doubles in every game after that. What's the key, Ian, for the Knicks to get the most out of Towns?
I think it's a lot of what we just talked about, Eamon. It's about getting him the ball where he's comfortable. And Mike Brown, again, they made that adjustment after Game 3, and you saw Towns really take off. And, 2 triple-doubles in the last 3 games. He was fantastic. And you remember earlier in the year, Eamon, he was talking about how he had a lot to adjust to with Mike Brown's new offense. And Mike Brown said Towns probably had the most adjustments to do out of anybody on the roster. And it was bumpy over the course of the year, but now again, here he is, comfortable in that role, thriving in that role, in the best possible time here for New York.
And now they wait for the Celtics or Sixers, with Game 1 against either being on Monday. Ian, thanks for joining us here on Honda Sports Night. We now welcome in Mark Malusis and John Jastrzemski for more on the Knicks eliminating the Hawks in historic fashion. And Moose, the 3 of us been watching Knick basketball for a long time. How un-Knick-like was this to have absolutely no drama and just dismantle the Hawks in a closeout game?
Yeah, I mean, I think second quarter I was out in the backyard having a baseball catch with my son Paul. I mean, there was nothing to watch. I mean, the game was over. I mean, it really was. And, you look at it, for the first time in a long time, you got a sense of a championship caliber team. I mean, that's really it. They didn't play around with their food. They got tested early in this series, down 2-1. By far, they were a more talented team coming into this series. They couldn't deal with it. OG Anunoby was absolutely ridiculous, really, throughout the course of it. Good to see Mikal Bridges get going. Karl Anthony Towns has a size advantage, but it was quite refreshing, especially for a team that's got an unbelievable amount of pressure coming into it.
Gang, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, we've seen a whole lot of blowouts in NBA postseason games and NBA closeout games. The Knicks were up by 61 points in a game.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about the 61 Yankees and Menno and Maris. No, I'm talking about the 25-26 Knicks. The same team that was down 2-1 in this series. The same team that, believe it or not, was an underdog going into Game 4 to go win this series. They just went in 3 consecutive games and laid the smackdown. They left absolutely no doubt. It was very un-Knick-like, but to basically go and see like a 39-4 run. What is this? I loved it. I couldn't get enough. And if you told me...
We've seen other teams do it, not the Knicks.
Correct. But if you told me at the start of the night, you'd be watching a fourth quarter with like Huck Porty and Sohan and Shamet, and you'd be up going away. Didn't have that. Not in a million years.
You mentioned the 61-point lead. How about the owner going viral when it was a 41-point lead, doing the math with Steph Marbury? All right, OG Anunoby, as Moose said, set the tone with 14 in the first quarter. JJ, how dangerous is this ball club when he's locked in and in the zone?
It's funny. We spent so much time talking about how the Knicks need to get Karl Anthony Towns involved in the offense, and rightfully so. But when OG Anunoby is dialed in and is firing on all cylinders like he was throughout Game 6 and really throughout this entire series, the Knicks are a completely different team, because then you have 3 legitimate bona fide scoring options because Anunoby can hit the three. His defense feeds off his offense. When he's going, Moose, the Knicks can be unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at OG Anunoby, what makes him such a tantalizing talent is you know how good he is defensively, right? And when he's able to get going offensively, as JJ mentioned it, all of a sudden now you have three. But there's not the deficiency to his game. His deficiency is the lack of consistency offensively because when you look at Brunson, when you look at Karl Anthony Towns, they're not really particularly good defensive players. Hart is limited offensively, great defensively. Mikal Bridges has been lost this year. OG Anunoby, when he is unlocked, this team goes to another level.
Yeah, to your point, he should be the total package. All right, JJ, you referenced the fact that they were underdogs in Game 4. So looking at the series as a whole, were the Knicks impressive or simply just took care of business?
I'm going to say impressive because this team faced adversity that I did not anticipate. They were down 2-1. Everyone's killing them a week ago, right? Mike Brown's going to get fired. They can't get a shot off at the end of Game 3.
Are you just talking about yourself or everybody else?
No, everybody else. They answered the bell. So impressive.